In 1808, the winds of war swept through the Iberian Peninsula. Napoleon Bonaparte's ambition reached far beyond France, as he sought to dominate Spain and Portugal. French troops marched into Spain under the guise of assisting in its defense. Tensions erupted as the Spanish royal family was captured, and a national crisis was born. Across the Spanish countryside, the first murmurs of rebellion spread like wildfire. The Spanish people, unwilling to bow to foreign invaders, rallied together. The rise of guerrilla fighters began, turning the land into a battleground. Meanwhile, in Portugal, the British military stood ready to defend their ally. In July 1808, a pivotal clash occurred near the town of Bailén in southern Spain. General Castaños led the Spanish army, bolstered by local militias, against French forces under General Dupont. The French troops, underestimating the resolve of the Spanish, were surrounded and forced to surrender. It was the first significant defeat for Napoleon's army on land. The victory in Bailén invigorated the Spanish resistance. News of the win spread across Europe, challenging the notion of French invincibility. Napoleon's plans for a swift conquest of Spain began to unravel. It was a moment of hope for the oppressed people of the Iberian Peninsula. The defeat at Bailén was a blow to French pride. Napoleon quickly sent reinforcements to Spain, determined to regain control. Marshal Jean de Dieu Soult's army moved southward with the intent to crush the Spanish resistance. A brutal counteroffensive followed, with the French forces regaining ground. Spanish guerrilla fighters, using the terrain to their advantage, harassed the French at every opportunity. Yet despite their resolve, the Spanish were overwhelmed by the might of the French military. In response, British forces under Sir Arthur Wellesley landed in Portugal to aid their allies. The city of Saragossa became a symbol of Spanish resistance in 1808. Under siege by the French, the citizens and soldiers held their ground with tenacity. Led by General Palafox, the defenders fought relentlessly against the well-supplied French troops. The siege lasted for months, with both sides suffering immense casualties. The French, frustrated by the prolonged stalemate, were determined to crush the resistance. In the face of starvation and disease, the people of Saragossa refused to surrender. The courage of the city's defenders became a beacon for the Spanish cause. Saragossa would ultimately fall, but its spirit lived on. By the end of 1808, British forces under Sir Arthur Wellesley had arrived in Portugal to defend it from French occupation. The British were well-trained, disciplined, and prepared for the challenges of war in the Iberian Peninsula. Wellesley quickly took control of the Portuguese defensive strategy. The British and Portuguese forces formed an uneasy alliance, but their combined strength posed a serious challenge to the French. Napoleon's troops were stretched thin, having to fight on multiple fronts. Wellesley's forces were well positioned to strike and slow the French advance. The coming months would see fierce fighting along the Portuguese-Spanish border. In August 1808, Wellesley's British forces faced off against French Marshal Junot's army near Vimiero, Portugal. Despite being outnumbered, Wellesley's troops used their superior training and discipline to their advantage. The French were caught off guard by the British tactics, and their morale began to falter. Junot's forces, battered and retreating, were forced into a humiliating surrender. The victory at Vimiero was a significant moment for the British in the peninsula. It also marked a turning point in the war, with the French beginning to lose momentum. Wellesley's reputation as a skilled leader was solidified. Despite their victory at Vimiero, the British were forced to retreat in the fall of 1808. A change in British command led to a temporary pause in their offensive. Meanwhile, the French, now under the command of Marshal Soult, pushed forward, occupying more of Spain and Portugal. The war seemed to be tilting in Napoleon's favor once again. However, the resistance in Spain remained unbroken, with guerrilla fighters intensifying their efforts. Spanish civilians continued to sabotage French supply lines and harass their troops. The war was far from over, and both sides prepared for the inevitable next clash. Meanwhile, the British restructured their forces, determined to fight on. If you like it, please like and subscribe to the channel to receive all that is new.